So now we're going to move to one of the cats of Maine. And we're really lucky to have the cats that we do here. This is a lynx, or Canada lynx as the proper name goes. I want you to notice particularly the size of the feet. Look at that thing. This guy wears snowshoes on his feet, and he needs them, of course, for heavy snows during the winter. We'll talk a little bit more about the shape and size and configuration of the cats, but they really are creatures of mystery. When we moved here in 2007, I was reading about them. There was a lot of concern at that point. The population had been falling, and it was thought that there were only about 1,000 of them left in Maine. Recent population surveys indicate that we're probably more like 2,000 cats now. It appears the population is growing. They've even found some across the border into New Hampshire that they think have migrated out of northern Maine. They are habitat specific. You know, they can't live in close quarters with humans very readily. They prefer to be alone. They're not pack animals like coyotes might be, for instance. So obviously they need big chunks of habitat that's protected, and they need the food that goes along with that kind of habitat to survive. I took this, or I showed this picture for you specifically. It looks like it's snowmobile tracks or something here. They are normally observed like bears traveling. I've seen 2 of them here in Maine in our time here. Both of them were on logging roads when we were out fly fishing up in northern Maine and far western Maine. The other thing I wanted to point out here is the size and configuration of this guy. Look how long this hind leg is compared to a bobcat. You're going to see one in a minute, but I want you to take particular note of that. He's a big, long-legged creature. Allows him to jump, allows him to run, and with those big feet makes them pretty mobile in tough conditions. So here, let's talk a little bit about the 2 cats that we have in Maine. A bobcat, mature bobcat, is going to average around 20, maybe 25 pounds. A big one would be 30, 35 pounds. You know, some house cats are pushing 20 pounds, so you can see how you can be confused by one. A lynx is bigger. A mature lynx is going to be 35, 40 pounds, even 50 pounds. But there's not a huge difference between them. But notice this hind leg. While it's long, it's not as elongated as this guy's hind leg is. Notice these ear tufts. Both cats have them, but on the bobcat, they're abbreviated. They might be ½ an inch long. On a lynx, they can be an inch, inch and a half long. And that, if they're both mature cats, that can be a distinguishing mark for you. Notice the face is broader here because the bobcat grows more of these mutton chop whiskers on the side than the lynx does. And you'll see the difference in the coat. The bobcats tend to retain their spots after their juvenile years, where the lynx is more a consistent tawny brown color. But one thing that's very important to see is this. The bobcat has white on the bottom of its tail. The lynx has a full black tail. Now when you spot these creatures in dark conditions running across the road, that's pretty tough to ID, isn't it? So you can imagine people are confused, or they misidentify these cats pretty easily. But next time you see one, you'll be better prepared to identify it. Their food range, it can be fairly wide of necessity, but this is their primary food right here. Up to 80% of the diet of the Canada lynx is the snowshoe hare. They'll take these other creatures if they can get them. They're powerful enough to kill a deer. They can jump on a deer's back, bite on the neck, and reach around with their paw and snap the neck. So picture that 40-pound cat doing that to a 150-pound deer. That's quite a show of force and power. But if they have a choice, they'll do this. And scientists that study these lynx, they put radio collars on them and track their movements and so on. they'll say that at times a lynx will lie in wait in heavy cover where the hares are known to exist, and they'll wait for hours for a hare to come down the path. So they're that focused on eating that particular species. Now, it wouldn't take a genius to figure out that with the cyclical nature of the hare population, every 5, 6, 7 years there's a peak and then there's a valley, as we have in other creatures. The lynx population is going to be affected by that. If you're a mother lynx and you've got 4 babies and you come into a hard winter and there's not a lot of hares around, that's going to impact the survival rate of those juvenile hares. Obviously, if it's a time of plenty, then more of those juveniles can survive to adulthood. And they are cute little devils at this age. I've never seen cubs. I probably never will. You'd be incredibly lucky, or you'd have to be out and about with a biologist who knew where they were hanging out. But they really are beautiful little creatures. She will allow the juveniles to stay with her through that first winter. Then in the spring, when it's time for mating season, she'll push them away and they have to find their own territory. But at this stage of development, you'd be hard pressed on a quick glance to say who's the mom and who's the juveniles here.